Hi all, I had an interesting club game last night in the North Circular League. Funny enough, the Barnet Elizabethan's first team in the North Circular League was playing the second team. We've got two teams in the first division now of the North Circular League. I think the instructive theme of this game is the need for accuracy when the strongest moves are played by the opponents, or stronger than you're used to. So if you're used to playing for blitz chess, for example, there's a freedom, I think, that you can play anything and get away with it. But I think that the longer the time control, or the more resourceful the opponent, I think the need for accuracy and finding perhaps the only way goes up. There's an increasing need to find the only way to play the exact implementation of an idea. So the idea could be really great and beautiful, but it's important to get the implementation more and more correct. The stronger the opponent is, the longer the time control. So, second game of the season, and I was a bit shaky, very shaky in this game, unfortunately. But I managed. Okay, I won't tell you the result. Let's just say, for the moment, some of the problems were resolved that I created. So let's see. The first problem that I created was an attraction to an idea seen in a towel game, because the opponent played d4, and I played actually my King's Indian Defence, which I played many times before, and he plays actually the 4 pawns attack line. And usually I have a very good results in this in over the board chess. I usually win with black against the 4 pawns attack. I don't know why exactly. It just seems a little bit weakening maybe, and I managed to exploit weaknesses quite well. Perhaps that's one reason. But the time limit for this game is 30 moves in an hour and a quarter, and then 15 for the remaining moves. So at least there's a potential, though, under this time limit, that even if you are losing in the mad time scramble at the end, to maybe get something anyway. So I castle here, and he plays knight f3, and after c5 he plays d5. Actually, I remember actually on a YouTube video recently, I was indicating as though I thought bishop g4 was the main line, and I was corrected by a couple of people, I think, that said c5 is main line. So I tried c5 actually, forgetting bishop g4, and after d5, just an immediate e6 to break up the centre, to put pressure down the e file. And after bishop e2, to my surprise, after ed, he took actually not with the c pawn, which I expected, but actually with the e pawn. And all of a sudden I got kind of excited, because a recent towel game, which I'd gone over on the ChessBase server on a Tuesday night, where I described the concept of kind of this gambit for accelerated overprotection. So we're talking about a beautiful idea I had seen in this towel game from this position, starting with b5. And the essence of the idea in my mind was that after knight takes b5, it isn't exactly like a Benko gambit. What you play is knight e4, and then I just pictured, basically a bishop here, 2 rooks here. This rook had gone like this, and the other knight over here. So everything was like overprotecting e4. That's really what I'd imagined and how I described it at the time. This kind of accelerated overprotection scheme. Really attractive idea. So I play b5, he takes, and I'm excitedly I play knight e4, and I want to arrange my pieces basically to overprotect e4, and from that basis to get an attack. And the knight should be stumbling back in theory as well. So once I get my 2 rooks like this, my other knight here, my bishop here, it would look like the towel game, I thought. And from that position I then proceed to play like something like knight h5 and get a vicious kingside attack. Now that was an idea, a beautiful idea. The thing is, well, transplanting the idea to this game, there's an opponent in this game who's playing strong moves every move, and will find the weakness of any move. And the stronger the opponent and the more resourceful they are, the more they're going to find the weakness of a particular setup, which means sometimes there might be only one way to actually play an idea. Doesn't matter how attractive it is. So here, okay, your idea is very, very attractive, this accelerates overprotection, but how to actually achieve it? How do you achieve this accelerated overprotection of E4? And of course Nxb5 pops into mind as well, making me even more excited. I'm going to overprotect E4 with everything, and then I'm going to blast the opponent's king to bits. That's the basic idea, surely. So anyway, after castles, I play A6. After much deliberation, actually, because even here I'm starting to consider tactically. Hold on a sec. Was it A6 first, or was it something else? Was it bishop F5 or rook E8? And I start to consider, hang on, if rook E8, what if he manages to get his knight back to C3, not to A3? That would be kind of tragic. What if he plays bishop D2 or something? Then I was looking at, hang on, bishop takes here, rook B1, and this doesn't look so clear, because now the knight potentially is given the C3 square to go back to. So I was wondering, hang on, what was the exact implementation here? Was it rook E8 or A6? Or bishop F5 even? And I wasn't 100% sure. And I was hoping actually that maybe, just maybe, after A6, knight C3, maybe a good thing here is just knight takes, and then leaving this weakness here, not taking on C3, but just carrying on development with bishop F5, which would deprive white of the B1 square. So I thought that was the implementation scheme of accuracy, just to play A6 immediately. That was the first kind of critical decision. So I do play A6 here after much deliberation, and he goes to A3, and I'm relieved. Okay, I've decentralized the knight. It's a stumbling knight, akin to the classic Kasparov game, the drunken knights, and black getting maybe huge central control potentially. Okay, so how to do this overprotection? Now here, I didn't really think it was crucial how to do the overprotection. Maybe this is blitz mentality, that nothing's really that crucial in blitz because the opponent's never going to pick up on refutations. Now the more the opponent picks up on refutations, the more sometimes perhaps there's going to be only one way. How do you do the overprotection of E4 in a safe way here? Is it bishop F5? Is it knight D7 to F6? Is it rook E8? Or even do you use the F pawn? So this kind of has to be worked out. And actually, I don't know, maybe from a generalistic point of view, if you're going to protect an advanced piece, maybe it's a good idea, at a basic minimum, on a higher level, to ask yourself a question. I don't know if this would be helpful, but the pieces you're going to protect, your sort of vulnerable piece, will those pieces become vulnerable? I mean, it's sort of a recursive question. So you're going to protect your advanced piece, which is in the enemy territory. It's in the 5th line. It's in the enemy territory. Okay, it's crossed the border. This knight. How to protect the pesky knight that's crossed the border? How? So, people on YouTube, would you be tempted? Now, in all honesty, would you be tempted? You have to be really honest here and not, change your answer from what you see later in the video by this. Would you be tempted by bishop F5? Yes or no? Would it tempt you? And can you work out the reasons before carrying on this video? Or would you be tempted by the immediate rook A7 to be able to answer an attack on your pesky knight with rook e7, would that be the greater temptation? Rook a7 to e7. So I'm giving you two choices. Okay, third choice, would you be tempted by knight d7 to answer an attack on the knight with knight f6? Okay, three choices there. Now, I really couldn't make up my mind. I thought it was relatively safe. Okay, my choice. Well, just to confirm your choice, 10 seconds to confirm your choice. Write it down and don't change your mind. I'll give you 10 seconds starting from now. How would you protect your pesky knight? 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, write your answer down. Please don't change it. Please post it in the comments of the video of how you protected the pesky knight. I protected it with bishop f5. And really, what is this need for accuracy? The original Tau game, actually, had, when I looked at it last night again, rook a7 to e7. I clearly more see why rook a7 to e7 isn't just cute and using that lovely a7 square which a6 had vacated, but actually it might actually be necessary to use a7. This might actually be a necessary resource, rook a7 to e7, because bishop f5, if we ask that rule just intuitively, we're protecting an advanced piece, but is the piece protecting the advanced piece vulnerable or not? Maybe that's the key question. Can we say that the bishop on f5 is vulnerable? Well, actually it's vulnerable in at least a couple of ways, because when the opponent plays now bishop d3, there are two ways the bishop's like vulnerable now. I wonder if you can spot both ways that this protector of the advanced pesky knight is vulnerable. Two ways. One is more violent than the other. If I give you 10 seconds, can you spot how? What two schemes could white use to exploit the bishop on f5, starting from now? Okay, the first scheme white can use is actually queen c2. Sorry, bishop d3 means that queen c2, and if the knight ever moved, there'll be a dangerous bishop takes f5, fracturing the pawn structure and winning the f5 pawn because of this battery on the diagonal. That's the first way. But even more direct, after bishop d3 is another way, which actually I'll test you with, because actually after bishop f5, bishop d3 was played. So already this might be theoretically vulnerable if the knight had ever moved. But after knight d7, there's another way that the bishop's vulnerable. If I give you 10 seconds here, can you spot why the defender is vulnerable? 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, to my horror, g4. To my horror, I've just blundered a piece to someone low rated, Brian, who's a good player, but I should in theory beat him on ECF rating. I've just blundered a whole piece. I was trying to remember this beautiful idea, and a whole piece has just gone down the drain. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, what do I do? Don't panic. What about knight f6? Maybe takes, maybe try and use the G file. Maybe there's knight h5 later. So I tried to calm down. Okay, I was trying to think, actually, what's the best chance in this position? And I came up with the idea that actually maybe the best chance is to try and keep my pawn structure solid here, solid triangle. So just take on g4. Okay, let him munch the knight. So this is what happened. A whole piece down now from a faulty protection of e4. And the beautiful thing about the Tau game, now that I realise, is actually rook a7, there wouldn't have been such an issue. If we look at bishop d3, rook e7, how can you get at this defending piece it's not possible for white to attack the defending piece. If f5 takes trying to get to the defending piece, maybe just f6, for example, or just knight takes bishop, the defending piece here, defending the pesky knight, is not really that exploitable. So maybe that's a basic generalization you can make. If you're going to defend the pesky piece, the defending pieces can they be undermined? You know, like a sort of pawn chain metaphor, you know, crumbling, rippling implications. So anyway, back to losing a piece. So I lose a piece because of g4. Ouch. I decide that the best way to approach this is actually to play knight f6. And now it's my opponent's turn to play accurately. And from an engine point of view, this isn't an accurate move already. It blows actually part of the advantage. This move, queen c2, which looks like a reasonable move, but better was, I think, just moving the bishop to d3. And you might wonder, just by how much is the advantage blown, queen c2? I'll give you a numerical answer now. If he played bishop d3 or bishop c2, apparently it's like plus 1.61 or 1.5. After queen c2, it goes dramatically down to just plus 0.68. So we're talking about, well, now 0.42 actually, because there's an accurate continuation apparently, as you see here. Knight takes, rook e8, chasing the queen, bishop h3, and it's starting to get a bit dangerous for the king even. So with accurate play from black, we're talking about 0.39 now. So these kind of second best moves don't do for either side, it seems. They can blow the advantages or lose pieces. So queen c2, but I didn't take on e4. I was tempted, but I just attacked because I had this other idea that here at least I can try and get some piece coordination going. If I can play queen d7, bishop h3, maybe my queen can come to g4. Maybe also there's ideas of knight h5 and bishop d4 one day. So queen d7, and after bishop d2 I play bishop h3, and I'm starting to see some hope. Hang on, well maybe this g4 is like backfiring in practical terms. It's breaking one of the golden rules about you shouldn't be moving pawns around your king. The king's a bit airy without this g pawn, so that's why I had some optimism that even though I was a piece down, you know, maybe there's some chances here. So rook f2 after knight g4. In fact, here my opponent goes wrong apparently a second time, and this time it's even more punishing. The second best move. I think the best move was rook e2, but what the opponent played was rook g2. Now to give you a numerical difference between the two, let's add the bits of another time. If he played rook e2, he maintains a small advantage of 0.30, 0.23, and if he plays rook g2, it actually goes massively in black's advantage through this continuation, as you can see here, which you'll notice the engine's immediately seeing some resources like bishop takes b2 here as a decoying resource. So remember this bishop takes b2 here. Very, you know, in a second it sort of sees all this. Okay, so remember that. So he offers his rook to try and get rid of my attacking pieces, and I thought, okay, I was expecting rook e2. I thought there might be some dangers of rook e2, and there's also potential resources, I thought, of like check and taking probably, like, you know, the Tau game and getting a knight to e3, you know, giving up the dark square bishop to establish a pawn on d4 to use e3. But okay, so he played rook g2, and I sensed that, you know, I was perhaps back in the game here. You know, so I take on g2, and I play knight e3 check. But I think, you know, one of the main benefits benefits of knight e3 check is to be able to play queen g4, but actually another major benefit is to actually get a rook with lateral pressure, which can be used to decoy the queen actually and win further material because of this threat of bishop takes b2. Apparently that's really closest to the reality of the situation now after bishop takes e3, that actually this is more important to try and play bishop takes b2 to win a little bit more material. So he blocks one of the things I was looking forward to, queen g4, with f5. And I did have a brief look at bishop takes b2, and for some reason I didn't think it was that strong. But actually, if you further investigate bishop takes b2, I think you would begin to realise that actually it is also related to the queen coming to g4, because if you can knock out f5, then f5 is automatically on then. But no, for some reason I was attracted with another idea here of simply taking the opportunity to simply double rooks. It's quite natural, I thought, to double rooks, and surely later I'll be given another opportunity to play takes, and if takes, then I'll move the bishop and I'll be threatening all sorts of nasty things like rook e2. The thing is, this is already wishful thinking that the bishop's ever going to take on f5 to allow queen e7 with a second rank invasion. That's terribly wishful thinking, and maybe driven by the fact that I thought maybe the opponent's going to be tempted to win h7 as well. So this is another second rate move, when really in this position, even though black's a piece down, engine evaluation gives this position as better for black, significantly better, but the move to get the advantage is bishop takes b2. So for example, bishop takes b2 and the engine's giving like rook e1, so takes, say queen takes b2, and now here rook e8. So just getting actually one more pawn here is better for black. Let's follow this up. Say knight takes d6, rook e3. There's vulnerabilities. Look, without that pawn, there's vulnerabilities all of a sudden. Skewing vulnerabilities. So that's one disaster scenario. And there's many more. So actually, bishop takes b2 turns out to be the most accurate move here, which actually gives black miraculously the advantage. So what I played was actually rook ae8, and now the opponent is able to tighten his position. He can parry now the threat, the decoy threat of bishop takes b2, and he does so with rook d1. And now bishop takes b2 is no longer on. Queen takes. There's no rook d3 because the rook's protecting d3. So that's gone. Not only that, things are about to get a lot worse. I played g takes f5, still with this idea that bishop takes. I played queen e7. I look forward to a second rank invasion. No, that's not the case. He leaves the pawn on f5. He plays queen f2, and not only that, now this drunken knight is about to sober up. The drunken knight is about to come into the centre with knight c2. So this rook d1 had facilitated the queen moving, shuffling along, and vacating the c2 square. So the knight, when it comes to c2, where is this poor rook going to go? Is it going to go humbly back, scurry back? And in that case, you might, knight h4 takes f5 would look kind of crushing. So this position now is going downhill badly downhill after queen f2. So oh there, queen e7. Now he plays knight c2. So I have to find the move here to stay in the game actually. You might wonder, well, why did I play queen e7, seemingly getting the rook trapped? I wasn't really attracted to moving the rook back. simply because of knight h4 actually. So we've got 3 pieces on f5, we've got a fractured pawn structure. It's a bit of a disaster, this position. So I had this other idea now, that after knight c2 I want to go a knight down again. I'd rather go a knight down and try and straighten out my pawn structure. So the move I played here was rook e4. And also I noted optimistically now that if takes, knight moves to get to f5, I can play e3. And if e3, not only am I attacking h4, which means that if queen g3, there might be queen e4 check with a fork on g2 and c2. So I was optimistic again after bishop e4. Take the knight, take the rook. Please take the rook on e4. What does an engine say about this? Out of interest, taking the rook on e4. It's the thing to do to get an advantage. Even knight h4 is possible because after e3, actually there's queen f4 extinguishing the threat of queen e4. So that's the harsh reality. It was optimistic thinking there. Doesn't actually exist, this idea. But he sort of trusted it, I think, and he played rook e1, and I played king h8, and now finally he did take. But instead of playing knight h4, which seems natural now to get into f5, he actually played king h1, which looks okay as well. You know, maybe there's a possibility later of rook g1, and he's using that pin on the queen. But I play queen f6. Okay, so I'm still not threatening to take either way because he just takes, and e8 is vulnerable. And he sorts out his b2 pawn very soon. Well, he offers it actually here. He plays rook e2, and I'm really concerned now, not just about knight h4, but if I take, I'm concerned actually about knight g5 as well, just hitting f7 and e4, and maybe queen f5 is like a major threat. And in fact, I don't know, maybe that is the strongest move here. Forget knight h4 here. Isn't there just knight g5? Yes, that would actually be the crushing move here. So actually, finally I play a move which actually kind of isn't a total disaster here. I play h6 to just make sure knight g5 isn't possible. So I might actually be threatening the pawn. He moves the pawn out of the way. So I'm back to being a whole knight down for not much, for a pawn. So here I go into nuisance mode. I'm thinking, how could I throw as many obstacles in my opponent's way as possible? How could I affect the position? So I play queen b2, thinking maybe that's the most troublesome move, because it might create some possibilities, useful possibilities of the check here, which might mean the queen can, after knight h4, come back to g5. Alternatively, maybe, you know, the bishop can go there in some lines, or the rook can go here and the bishop can go here. These ways of parrying this knight h4 to f5, this evil maneuver coming up, how do I sort of try and parry that with maximum difficulty presented to the opponent? He plays knight e3, and now I see that I can throw in an annoying check actually to disrupt the position. I play queen c1, sorry, queen a1 check, keeping on the diagonal, not queen c1. And after rook e1, at the very least now, the queen is not protected. That's what this check has caused. It's caused a little tiny tactical implication that the queen is not protected by the rook here. So I'm thankful for that small mercy, and I go back with the queen to f6. He can easily sort this out. He can get back this pin. But now, for some reason, it's a good move though. It's still a good move. He plays knight g4. In fact, it might be one of the strongest moves in the position. Whoops, not arrows. If we add the bits for here, is knight g4 in fact one of the strongest moves in the position? It is actually one of the strongest moves technically in the position, but the follow-up needs to be, you know, quite good. But he's starting to get into time trouble. We've had the extra 15 minutes, by the way, at move 30, and this is now move 34. So he's down to like the last 15 minutes and counting. So maybe, you know, about 10 minutes here left. So I attack the knight with queen f5, and he plays queen g3, natural enough. He's still got this nasty pin. This pawn's not able to take. And here I thought, hang on, I'll cause trouble then with one of the only moves. I'll drive the knight back. I'll play h5, and here it is, a total outright blunder. Now the knight can just move back, of course, to f2, and he maintains the advantage. In fact, what sort of advantage? It is just basically a piece up. Just knight f2, and he's like 2 units up. Yeah. So I played bishop f6. I think I was intending bishop f6 to seal out these 2 squares anyway. But thankfully, the opponent really blundered here in time pressure, unfortunately. Otherwise, Brian played an excellent game. He actually blundered. He played knight e3. And the pin has just been released on the pawn. So I can take on f3 with the queen. He's attacking the queen, but I can take on f3 with the queen. There's no pin on. So the pawn is free to recapture now. So it's check. He takes, actually, and after takes, king g1, I exploit now this vulnerability, not with bishop d4, which might allow king f2, and I might still be better there. In fact, is it winning? Is bishop d4 winning? No, it's actually dead equal here. Bishop d4, although tempting, king f2, and if he picks up this pawn, we're going to end up. It looks, from an engine point of view, it looks to be dead equal, because white takes here, and this could end up being a draw, basically, from an engine point of view. So thankfully, there's a crushing move here. So he plays in this position, king g1. I'll let you find the crushing move. If I give you 10 seconds, can you find the crushing move, which is the final move of the game? 10 seconds starting from now. So clue, it's not bishop d4. 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, bishop c3. At least finally I played an accurate move and not bishop d4. So if the rook moves to c1, I actually take on e3 and protecting the bishop. And if the king tries to attack, then bishop d4 protecting the rook, for example. So bishop c3, and he has to resign here. So that was enough up and down game. Trying to borrow ideas from master games unsuccessfully, not realizing that actually there wasn't just neat maneuvers, there was like oni maneuvers, because you want to protect things in such a way that the protecting pieces are not underminable, which means that, you know, maybe these master games had a high degree of precision if it was factored in, so that the high degree of precision was actually that the nifty maneuver here, a6 first, correct, and now the nifty maneuver rook a7 is needed to e7, because on e7 it's difficult to undermine the e7 protector of e4. So the first major blunder leading to going down a piece is bishop f5. So unfortunately, the computer-like move g4 is played, but it weakens his king. Intuitively, you know, told not to move pawns around your king, you know, because it's creating more weaknesses. So the king's a bit airy, and in fact, after queen c2, I'm almost like equalising if I take on e4 in that line we saw, the engine saw, and now I blunder again because I didn't realise the power in this position of trying to achieve this objective of getting the queen in. Then actually bishop takes b2, even though it's my prize king's engine bishop, sometimes it does need to be given away and offered, even though you're gonna leave weaknesses on the dark squares. I guess I was too attracted to keeping it on the board. I thought doubling rooks, at least I keep my beautiful bishop across the diagonal, but here it seems objectively best. It's better to let the bishop go. It's the position, it's the needs of the position for the cherished king's engine bishop to leave the board here. But no, I double up rooks instead, and this means that he can shuffle his pieces now and get his drunken knight back into the scene with immediate effect with knight c2. So he's back in the driving seat, a piece up, and I just try and cause a bit of trouble, and thankfully the trouble I caused was enough causing him to sort of blunder a piece in time pressure. So I think it's the league time limit actually sort of which let me have a little bit of luck, otherwise it was all over. Of course it was all over. Bishop c3, finally an accurate move to win the game, to cause a resignation. Okay, I hope you got a few things out of that from my game last night. Comments or questions on YouTube, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It's free and you'll be notified of any new videos. Thanks very much.